We've got big news in the Charlie Kirk investigation actually breaking yesterday just before the afternoon from KUTV. 2 News investigates, discovers possible missing evidence in Charlie Kirk murder case. Now, this was brought to my attention the other day. I didn't think too much of it, but wanted to look into more. And as more information is starting to emerge, there are interesting questions into what is going on. Now, my friends, this is not a video meant to theorize on conspiracies. That is not how I operate. I'm not trying to disparage anybody who has questions or is currently digging. What I will say first and foremost is this. I have been told wackaloon things, secret palm guns and exploding lav mics and all of these other wacky conspiracies I am not interested in. As of right now, the evidence presented appears to indicate Tyler Robinson did this. I will also stress, my understanding from sources behind the scenes is that there's much more evidence not yet available to the public. The general sentiment is Robinson did it. I would say that from sources involved. But there are growing questions about how this is being handled. And certainly some of it lends itself to these conspiracy theories, such as previously I did a segment on the Sean Ryan podcast hosting Charlie's Security saying they didn't sweep the roof. Now, this struck me as odd and makes no sense because we have security teams. We have very good security teams, very expensive security teams. And following the assassination, the assessment we all had was this was a massive failure in security. And I'm sorry, but anyone with eyes can see it. Charlie's security team did not sweep the roof. As I mentioned in the earlier segment, we work with guys who were former SEAL team. I'm told, Tim, they put a janitor on that roof. Charlie's alive. This doesn't make sense. Now, according to this Sean Ryan podcast, the statement, the texts, there's something really interesting there in that Charlie's security team said, well, they were told by police they got you covered. So who am I to judge? Now, hold on. Security team said, we want to get one of our guys up there or have it checked out, closed off or whatever. They said, I got you covered, and there's no follow-up. He said, so they said, I got you covered. We let it go. My security team would never do this. We've gone, this just doesn't add up to me. Now, certainly, never attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence. And I'm sorry, because I don't want to be a dick, but certainly the guys who were doing security for Charlie that day should not work in security ever again. At best, they knew about the roof access and did not even send a coffee-grabbing intern to sit in the stairwell or block the roof access. No, they said someone else will take care of it. Why hire private security then? At worst, the conspiracy theories are that they let it happen. I'm not here to entertain or play those games, just to cover this, which is breaking news from KUTV, missing evidence in the Charlie Kirk case. This is strange, my friends. All I can say is there is certainly something going on that we're not privy to. Now, by all means, I know a lot of people want to jump to the immediate, most extreme of conspiracy theories. I do not believe that is appropriate. I do not believe that is how we should handle these things. I did a few videos already debunking a lot of the claims against Turning Point USA, their 990 forms. And while I do agree, when people bring up these forms and say, why was Turning Point shuffling money to these 3 other shell companies? There are interesting questions about whether or not it's unethical behavior. But some of these guys frame it in such a way that they immediately try to make it seem like Turning Point's covering something up. In one instance, the guy says, why are the 990s missing? Missing implies they should be there and they're not. As if, for some nefarious reason, they are unavailable. In fact, my response is, no, the 990s are just unavailable. It could be that they're filed late. Questions about whether or why tax filings are made late certainly are fair. But to imply malice when all we know is sometimes people don't file their taxes on time, that's really it. In fact, for all we know, the taxes were literally filed on time and for some reason just not made available through these 990 tracking websites Or maybe it was filed just a month ago and they've not yet been put up publicly for public review. There's a lot of reasons. Right now, I think it's important to gather the evidence and lay it out and try and see where it brings us instead of what these other people are doing and saying there's palm guns, exploding knives. There's one where it's like, Charlie was actually shot from behind, but it was a guy in the bushes, and the guy in the bushes would be in front of Charlie. Like, these conspiracy theories are not helping anybody. Now, this story about missing evidence could compromise the case, in which case, this is CBS News. This is KUTV, CBS local affiliate. This is not random internet conjecture. And we got to understand what this means. But my friends, to be fair, we do have a sponsor for today's segment, and it is Backyard Butchers. And I do tremendously respect not only the delicious meat that they provide, but the sponsoring of the show. Use promo code Tim at Backyard Butchers. Go to backyardbutchers.com/Tim. And you can get 30% off plus free shipping. But wait, there's more. My friends, Big Ag shouldn't be at your table. Thanksgiving's coming up. You got to be eating right and doing your best when you can. But with Backyard Butchers, you can. You don't got to go eat that factory farm garbage, mystery meat feedlot garbage full of chemicals and hormones. You can get meat from real ranchers straight to your door. American tradition deserves better than garbage meat. And you know what else I heard? There's this trend going around where they're gluing meat together with this like weird enzyme to trick you into thinking you're getting the real good stuff when you're not. I think it's important we watch out for that, and we eat as best we can. Right now, Backyard Butchers is offering to 30% off, plus a free turkey or ham with your purchase. 30% off your Thanksgiving turkey. Better get it now. I mean, you got a week. Order at backyardbutchers.com and use promo code Tim. I promise it'll be a feast your family will remember. Free turkey and ham. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I think this Thanksgiving, I'm going to have me a nice juicy ribeye. I'm not a big turkey guy, but shout out to Backyard Butchers. I know it's kind of weird. We're in the nightmare dystopia reality of there's a mystery over missing evidence in a murder case. Shocked us to our core. But wait, a word from our sponsor. No, in all seriousness, they make it possible. If you think the work that we're doing is important, then thank you to all those who sponsor us. Now, we've got the report here from KUTV.
Rudy Bautista is a Rule 8 attorney, qualifications only select number of defense attorneys in Utah have in order to defend cases with a capital offense, some involving a possible death penalty. He's not affiliated with the case involving Tyler Robinson, who's accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk back in September. I showed him what I found that could indicate there's potential missing evidence in the case.
He said, hey, I know who Charlie Kirk's shooter is.
On September 17th, 2025, Washington County Sheriff Nate Brooksby held a press conference.
Our job was not to interview. Our job was just to get him here.
After Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter was taken into custody in Washington County less than 2 days after the shooting.
Within the hour, my friend drove Tyler and his parents to my office, where he was greeted by plainclothes detectives.
After learning of this, I submitted a public records request to obtain any video of Tyler Robinson walking into the jail facility. Washington County responded saying there were no records responsive to the request, as Robinson did not go to the jail area. Our request for any holding room video was denied. A few weeks later, I re-upped the request on a more generalized scale for surveillance video showing Tyler Robinson walking into the sheriff's office.
For the state of Utah, we would certainly hope that this video is available.
The response? Our office does not have any applicable records responsive to this request, as the surveillance footage is no longer available after the 30-day retention period.
If, in fact, it has been destroyed and not preserved, it's very concerning. And if it has, then it's very concerning that they're telling you they don't have it.
I have to pause and be a grammar Nazi for a moment, sir. It's concerning, it's disconcerting. Concerning means that it is prescient to a particular individual, but now that I've sufficiently annoyed all of you, I apologize. Let's keep playing.
Have it. I would have expected to say that this video has been provided to the Utah County law enforcement. Please contact them. But instead, this letter leads, in my opinion, as trying to shut the door and not give you free access to the press.
While it's not clear if the video exists and was just handed over to another agency, in a response to me, Washington County shared with me they don't believe the video was shared with anyone involved in the case.
So this is insane. This is CBS News. Guys, I am not a conspiracy guy. I have said outright over and over again, evidence suggests Occam's razor, Hanlon's razor, all of those things. Robinson, for every conspiracy where you think there's a big cover-up, I say Hanlon's razor, incompetence makes more sense. As for the evidence we've seen, the simple solution the solution that makes the least amount of assumptions tends to be correct. And I still think it's fair to say probability says it's going to be Robinson. Additionally, I have reached out to sources and asked and had conversations pertaining to this. My understanding, as I've been told by different individuals, the evidence they have on Robinson is actually more substantial than the public realizes. They're not going to release their whole case on this because it would allow the defense to know their strategy for prosecution. They do have to release the evidence to the defense, just not their strategy and the particular evidence they want to be released. They don't want to do that, not unless they absolutely have to. So my understanding is they're saying it's going to be open and shut. And that's why Turning Point is trying to get cameras in the courtroom. They want the public to see the trial and show they have evidence of this. And that being said, it doesn't help when you get weird stories like this. They never sent the surveillance footage out, but it's not been retained, so they don't have footage of Robinson actually being brought in by the sheriff. Now, the question I have first and foremost is, I don't know what any of that means. You know, it's something that I find strange, but you could always just say incompetence. Fine. CBS publishing this story. Again, this is local investigative reporters saying something doesn't add up. Where is the evidence? Did they really delete the evidence of Robinson coming into the jail? Now, some might argue they don't need it. He turned himself in. They don't need surveillance footage of him being brought to the jail. So then why ask the question? Honestly, I don't know. Let's play more.
Wanting to get videos showing that he turned himself in and the manner he did so would be crucial for the defense work of mitigation.
26 years as a criminal defense attorney in Utah, Bautista is currently working another capital case in Utah County with the state intending to seek the death penalty.
Again, Mr. Kirk, by all counts, was a great young man who was helping educate people, and we encourage that. And this is very tragic that he's lost his life. But it is not a death penalty case.
When you look at this case on the surface and what you've seen play out, what stands out to you?
What stands out to me is this is not an aggravated murder case. In order for it to be an aggravated murder case, that something is that can qualify for the death penalty, there has to be an aggravating factor.
Bautista says the alleged weapon in the shooting alone doesn't meet the standard for prosecutors to seek the death penalty.
The risk of hitting someone else really isn't there. And so that's why I believe that aggravating factor is really weak. Now, why it was charged that way is clearly political.
I hope he gets the death penalty.
And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
Instead of looking at it objectively, a prosecutor is to look at the evidence objectively and then charge the person with the most applicable crime. Here, where they're saying it will be this crime, we are now taking evidence, so they're trying to make the facts fit a cause of action that is not applicable.
Bautista believes the death penalty conversation in this case was pushed too soon.
Certainly suggests abuse in our higher government.
Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty against Tyler Robinson, who's accused of shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. Gray said on September 16th, just days after the shooting, that the decision to seek the death penalty was made independently. Brian Schnee, KUTV2 News.
Brian Schnee, KUTV News, CBS affiliate. 4-minute report on possible missing evidence in the Charlie Kirk case. I have questions. And you want to know what's really strange? On the YouTube for this video, it has only 861 views and 2 comments from the Salt Lake City official channel. Don't get me wrong, I don't know that very many people will be watching this, but it's certainly not making the rounds, though it's extremely important. If you are someone who believes that we need to get justice for Charlie Kirk, as I believe everybody does, you want to make sure the evidence is preserved. And if there is evidence of him turning himself in, that is something the prosecution's absolutely going to want to show to the jury, saying, he's pleading not guilty, but look, he turned himself in. Come on. Open and shut case, but now it's gone. Something strange isn't adding up. Now, there's another component that I want to get to that I've been talking with my team about. as it pertains to the security. Salt Lake Tribune has this story. UVU police chief promised to secure rooftops ahead of Charlie Kirk's security team. Following the recording of my previous segment, where I questioned the security team because this makes no sense. Guys, I'm going to put it like this. First, I have sources in and around Turning Point with law enforcement, etc. You know that we work with a lot of these people. And they're saying, dude, it's open and shut. I mean, it's not perfect, of course, but the evidence is fairly overwhelming. The reason why Turning Point wants the cameras in the courtroom is once people get to actually see the prosecution lay out the evidence with their strategy and their explanations, you're going to say, wow, I mean, that's fairly open and shut. That's the sentiment behind the scenes. There are many people who are more on the cover-up conspiracy side saying, why won't they publish this? Why won't they publish that? Where's the video footage of this? And the response, I'm told, because I asked for comments, is we have to release this evidence to the defense, but if we release it to the public explaining how things went down and our perspective on what happened, you're giving the defense not just the evidence, but also your prosecutorial strategy. We don't do that. No one does that. And a lot of these guys, their attitude is, I don't care what conspiracy theorists think. I'm here to get justice. And if that's the case, I understand. I do. And I'm not one of these conspiracy guys, but there are questions that have popped up that I think are important to ask. And I don't think any of this right now, as far as the public is concerned, is proven. I certainly think evidence suggests it was Robinson, but we all have very serious questions. Even people at Turning Point have been saying, I don't understand. So the question then becomes, first, for what reason did security not sweep the roof? Well, the argument they've made is that the police promised to do so. Not an answer. When you hire private security, you hire them to do what the police does anyway. That's the point. I got police. I can call them. They'll come. They'll do an investigation. They'll guard property, whatever. You hire private security because you want direct control and access to those securing you because you're not going to rely on police for everything. Let's be real. Police, they protect you from criminals, right? Well, they can't always do it, so people have private security. Why did Charlie's security team not sweep the roof? I pointed this out before. Our guys were like, Tim, you put a janitor on that roof and Charlie's alive. It's not a question of a police officer or a heavily experienced security guy. It's physical presence at all. And if you hire a security team and they know there's roof access, they just walk up and check it. They don't go, well, they said they'd do it. That doesn't happen. So at the bare minimum, this security company, in my opinion, based on this statement, I would never hire them. That seems ridiculous. Now, something was brought to my attention. Inconsistencies. But I don't think it's evidence, and I can try and debunk a little bit of this, but still bring it up, and I think I don't have all the answers. From Salt Lake Tribune, Harpole, in security, said his team also has drones, but wasn't allowed to fly them because of local laws. And he wasn't allowed to station his staff on any rooftop without express permission from UVU, which they never got. They could position themselves. Let me put it like this. If Robinson or whoever you think did it was able to walk up without being stopped and get on the roof, the argument about they couldn't do it without permission is BS. It's BS. Now, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to pull up our friend Grok, and I'm going to say, I'm going to check this. Are there any local laws against flying drones near UVU? Let's just see what it says. Searching the web. Utah Valley University in Orem has a detailed internal policy that effectively acts as a local restriction on campus property. Well, not a law in the governmental sense. Violent, it can result in a university disciplinary action, trespassing charges, or involvement from local law enforcement. All drone operations on UVU property require prior approval via a UVU flight authorization document from the Office of Risk Management. This applies to students, faculty, staff, visitors, and contractors. Training and insurance. So Utah state law largely preempts local governments from regulating drone airspace, meaning Orem and Utah County do not have specific municipal ordinances banning or restricting drones beyond federal rules. However, there's private property restrictions, etc. He says he wasn't allowed to fly them because of local laws. When my team saw that, when I saw that, we said, what are you talking about? For those that aren't familiar, I was the first. I consulted the U.S. government drone coalition on drone regulation and laws, as my friends and I were the first to do live broadcasting via drone. We got coverage in, I think it was GQ magazine over this. I had a feature in GQ that largely that mentioned some of this. We also had blurbs in other magazines about the work we were doing in this regard. I was brought down to, I think it was North Carolina, to select the first drone testing facility in the United States. My friends and I were hacking the code of commercial drones to broadcast. It's 2012. It's end of 2011. And we're flying a drone down the hallway of a hotel, live streaming it to our hotel room. When they said that, they couldn't fly it from laws, I was like, whoa, wait, really? Local laws? Grok says no. Now, we here at Timcast, again, fair point, this is 14 years ago. A lot has changed in the drone space, and I am no longer heavily involved. It was preliminary. I never pursued a pilot's license, though I do think it was funny that I was told by these, the drone code, the guys in government were like, Tim, moving forward, you're going to have to get a pilot's license to fly these things. And I was like, wait, hold on. I'm consulting you on this stuff, and you're telling me I got to get certified by you now? Can't you just write one up? No, I was like, yeah, I don't care. You know, we did our thing. We're over it. One of our staffers here is a certified drone pilot and knows all the rules, Brian. And he said, he talks about not being able to fly a drone due to airspace restrictions. This is BS. LAANC authorization requests to fly in Class B and C airspace near airports are processed instantaneously through an app. I would have flew my drone that day. Any Part 107 pilot knows this. Interesting. But let's just say this. Here you go.
Charlie had it on his phone. I said,
here we go. Let me...
Anyway, on our way in, we had drone footage of the crowd building. And Charlie had it on his phone. I said, Charlie, I don't like this place. There are too many buildings. Charlie just kind of brushed it off because, look, we have a security team, and he wasn't going to cancel an event.
Frank Turek. He says they had drone footage. He said they had drone footage of the crowd building. Now, it's funny because a lot of people thought he meant there's a building, a structure called the crowd building. No. He's saying we had footage of the crowd growing in size. And then he said, on the phone, the footage. That meant they had drone footage from that day. Now, I'm not here to tell you what it means. You comment. But I am here to point out the security team did not even send a donut-eating coffee gopher to stand on the stairwell in front of the roof access. Come on. They said, yeah, the cops will take care of it, I guess. They didn't do their jobs. And that's the best case scenario. The worst case is you get all crazy conspiracy stuff. He also claimed publicly they couldn't fly drones. What are you talking about? Frank said they had drone footage. What were you doing? Who were flying the drones? And if you did fly drones, why lie about it now? The reason I bring this up, I'm not a big fan of getting into the conspiracies, the theories. I know a lot of people are screaming cover up and things like that. That's never been my MO. I'm not a fan. But this is CBS News saying there's possible missing evidence they need. And there's weird questions about the failures of the security company. And more importantly, if all is said and done, and the evidence says Robinson did it and they prove it, so be it. But I also still think it's important to point out, considering this case, with all due respect, and I mean that in the literal sense, with respect that is due to you, to Charlie's security team, these errors must be pointed out. And I will say, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. Based on the news reports I've seen and read from, I personally would never hire that security team or anyone involved. It's up to you. It's up to you. I hope they put cameras in that courtroom, and I hope they get us real evidence, and I hope we conclude this. We don't need the infighting. But that being said, should stories like this continue? We'll talk about them. Smash the like button, share the show, stay tuned, more to come. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you on the next segment.